It has came to my attention that this No Jumper employee just quit the podcast and is attempting to expose Adam 22 and other No Jumper employees and affiliates on the way out, claiming No Jumper is a police platform and they play police games.
He quit. And on the way out, he said everything they told him to keep quiet. You already know how this goes. You've seen it before. Somebody gets too close to the machine, starts seeing things they weren't supposed to see. And the moment they try to walk away with their dignity, the whole operation turns on them. That's exactly what happened here. And the moment I heard about this, I knew we had to talk about it. So here's what went down. A No Jumper employee, someone who was inside that building, sitting at those mics, part of that whole operation, just quit. And he didn't leave quietly. On his way out, he started talking, calling No Jumper a police platform, saying Adam 22 and people connected to that show are playing what he calls police games. Now look, when somebody inside a powerful media operation uses those exact words on the way out the door, you don't just scroll past that. You stop, you listen, because that's not frustration talking. That's someone who knows something. But here's the thing though, this isn't even the first time this particular person tried to leave. And this is the part nobody talks about. Before this most recent exit, there was another one. He quit once before. Said he was done. And you know what happened? He was back within 2 days. 2 days. Podcasting like nothing happened. And I want you to sit with that for a second, because it tells you everything about how this world works. When you're inside a platform that controls your visibility, your reach, your entire public identity, leaving isn't just a decision. It's a risk most people quietly decide they can't afford. So they go back. They swallow it. They sit back down at the mic. And that's how they keep people in line. Not with chains, with cameras, with followers. With the fear of going back to being nobody. I need you to stay with me here, because this is where it gets real. There was an incident at the No Jumper studio. A man named Veal. Someone connected to Adam. Someone who was there that day reportedly captured footage on his phone that showed what looked like a firearm visible on this employee. And instead of handling that internally, that footage ended up on an Instagram story, posted publicly. Now this employee says he's a felon, which means if that image circulated the way these things circulate online, we're not just talking about drama. We're talking about someone's freedom, someone's life. And the response from inside that circle was basically, well, you shouldn't have brought it in the first place. Actually, let me rephrase that. The response wasn't just dismissal. It was redirection. Blame the guy who got recorded. Don't ask why someone was recording in the first place. Don't ask why it went on a public story. Just point the finger at the person with the least power in the room and move on. You know, just like I know, that is a very specific kind of move. That's not just content drama. That's control. And look, I'll be honest with you. This one got under my skin a little, because I've watched platforms like this operate for years. And the pattern is always the same. Find people who have nothing. Give them just enough shine to make them feel like they owe you something. And then the moment they want more? The moment they want dignity, or a real seat at the table, remind them exactly where they came from. Remind them about the bedroom with the dingy sheets. Remind them that before you, nobody knew their name. That's not mentorship. That's leverage. And I think you feel that too. Now here's where it gets interesting, because this thing goes deeper than one employee quitting. There's a man named Poetic Federal who apparently has a relationship with Veal. Photos on Instagram, arm around each other, the whole thing. And according to the employee who just quit, Poetic Federal saw that Instagram story with the firearm and called the police. Called the police on someone at the podcast. And now this employee is saying that's not a coincidence. He's saying there's a network here, a connected web of people around No Jumper who he believes are deliberately using law enforcement as a tool. Now I'm not going to tell you what to think about that, but I will tell you this. When a man who spent time around that operation looks you in the camera and uses the specific phrase, police platform, and then a separate incident happens that seems to confirm exactly what he's describing. You don't just wave that away. You ask questions. You start connecting things, and the reason for that, well, you'll see. What I will tell you is that the response from inside that world wasn't denial. It wasn't a press statement. It wasn't a calm, transparent breakdown of what actually happened. It was mockery. It was, send him back to the bedroom. It was, he'll be back in a week. It was public humiliation dressed up as confidence. And people who actually have nothing to hide don't respond that way. They don't need to. There's also the matter of some very serious accusations floating around in this situation. Claims about a minor, about a meeting at No Jumper that was supposedly documented and then disputed. The person making those claims says it was a lie. The person who made those claims says it was real. And right now, nobody outside that room actually knows the full truth. What we do know is that those words, those specific words, were put into the world. And once something like that gets said out loud, on a platform, to an audience, it doesn't just disappear, it lives. And so does the question. So let me ask you directly, because you've been watching this whole thing play out the same way I have. If a media platform is powerful enough to make careers, control narratives, bring in law enforcement when it suits them, and publicly humiliate employees who speak out, what does that tell you about who's actually protected in that building? And who isn't? What does it tell you about every other person who worked there and said nothing? What does it tell you about every interview you watched and thought was raw and real? Drop it in the comments, because I want to know if you're seeing what I'm seeing. And if you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, I already know the answer.